The scene ignites on a Japanese island, a stark silhouette against the churning sea, where a coal mine claws into the earth. But this isn't just any mine. It's a cage for countless Korean laborers, their sweat and toil fueling the machinery of oppression. Their existence is a brutal rhythm of back-breaking labor and meager rations, their spirits slowly being crushed under the weight of their captivity. Then, a tremor of horror rips through their already fragile world. A child, small and innocent, is swallowed by the unforgiving earth, crushed beneath a rockfall. A collective gasp of despair echoes through the grim tunnels. The light in their eyes dims further, as the lifeless form of the child is returned to his inconsolable family, a stark reminder of their vulnerability. Amidst this despair, a figure emerges, a Korean man, his gaze weathered but resolute, a beacon of hope in the suffocating darkness. He gathers 3 young souls, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty. His voice, though low, carries the weight of their shared suffering. He tasks them with a perilous mission, to escape this island prison under the cloak of night and carry their story of brutal exploitation across the sea to Korea. They must become living testimonies to the world's indifference. Under the guidance of a trusted compatriot, the 3 children embark on their desperate flight. The shadows become their allies, the rustling leaves their only companions. But fate, it seems, is a cruel jailer. One of the children is ensnared, his small body caught in the harsh glare of the guards' lanterns. A deafening crack of gunfire shatters the night silence, and another young life is extinguished, a tragic sacrifice to freedom's desperate plea. The remaining 2 children, their hearts pounding like trapped birds, finally reach the churning embrace of the sea. Hope flickers, fragile yet persistent, but their ordeal is far from over. A looming ship cuts through the waves, its presence a symbol of their continued confinement. They are captured once more, their dreams of escape dissolving into the cold reality of their captivity. Across the turbulent waters, the scene shifts to Korea, a land unaware of the anguish unfolding on that distant island. Life moves on, seemingly untouched by the suffering of its people. We find Lee, a rock musician with a vibrant energy, lost in the joyous abandon of a party. His music fills the air, a temporary escape from the unspoken anxieties that linger beneath the surface. His young daughter beams at him, a picture of innocent joy. As the revelry winds down, Lee seeks out a friend, a detective with a knowing glint in his eyes. A clandestine deal is struck. Lee, burdened by an unspoken urgency, needs passage to Japan for his entire band. He presses a wad of cash into his friend's hand, a silent plea for safe passage. The detective, perhaps blinded by the lure of money or harboring his own hidden motives, agrees to facilitate their journey. The next act unfolds with a deceptive air of hope. Lee, his daughter clinging to his side, and his bandmates board a ship, the detective a seemingly reliable guide. The vessel is crowded with others, their faces a mixture of apprehension and anticipation, all unknowingly sailing towards an uncertain destiny. The ship reaches a desolate shore and drops anchor. A chilling discovery awaits. Lee's scattered letters, bearing his friend's familiar script, litter the ground. The horrifying truth dawns upon him. Betrayal. His friend, the supposed ally, has led them not to freedom, but to this forsaken place. He has deceived not only Lee, but countless others, their hopes and dreams now shipwrecked on this desolate island. The illusion of a new beginning shatters as armed officers herd them onto a waiting train, its iron wheels grinding towards the ominous silhouette of the mine. Upon arrival, the promised land reveals its true face, a brutal gauntlet of violence. Soldiers descend upon the weary travelers, their batons raining down with cruel indifference. Begging pleas for mercy fall on deaf ears. Families are torn apart with ruthless efficiency. Women and children are wrenched from the desperate clutches of their husbands and fathers, loaded onto a separate boat, their cries echoing across the water, a symphony of despair. The men are left behind, their hearts heavy with fear and a gnawing sense of helplessness. Stripped of their belongings, their identities reduced to mere numbers, the Korean men are herded like cattle. A junior manager of the mine company appears, his face devoid of empathy. He demands that Lee, the musician, play a Japanese song, a humiliating act of forced subservience. Hesitantly, the band strikes up the tune, the melody a stark contrast to the anguish in their hearts. The senior manager arrives, his presence exuding an air of cold authority. His words of welcome are laced with menace, a thin veil over the brutal reality that awaits them. They are now cogs in his machinery, their lives forfeit to the insatiable hunger of the mine. The finality of their situation is driven home with the distribution of account slips, a cruel mockery of fairness. The exorbitant costs of their journey, their meager lodgings, and countless other fabricated expenses are meticulously listed, the company already claiming ownership of their future earnings. Even their sustenance is an insult, dirty, insect-ridden food offered as a grim reminder of their worthlessness. Driven into the dark abyss of the mine, they toil under the oppressive gaze of their captors. A brief respite comes with the chance to bathe, but even this small act of cleansing is tainted by violence. A Korean supervisor, a collaborator in their oppression, brutally murders a young boy. This act ignites a spark of defiance in a Korean gangster named Joy. He confronts the supervisor, his rage a palpable force. The junior manager intervenes, and a dangerous bargain is struck. Joy will fight the supervisor. If he loses, he becomes a slave to them all. But if he wins, he will become the leader of the Korean workers. The fight is brutal, a desperate struggle for dignity. Joy unleashes his fury, his fists a whirlwind of righteous anger. The supervisor falls, his reign of terror ending in a bloody heap. But the senior manager, ever the manipulator, arrives to sow seeds of discords. He warns them against internal conflict, claiming the Japanese desire to see them tear each other apart. He concedes to Joy's leadership, a calculated move to maintain control. Meanwhile, the senior manager indulges in a lavish meal, surrounded by women and his officers, oblivious to the simmering resentment in the mines below. A young girl is present, her eyes holding a flicker of recognition as a song fills the air. She reveals that she sang the song, and her father composed the music, but her words are lost in the chasm of language, until a Korean girl translates her heartfelt claim. Intrigued, the senior manager summons Lee and his band. A poignant reunion unfolds as Lee sees his daughter amidst the opulence, a stark contrast to the squalor of the workers' lives. Across the sea, at a Korean army base, an officer is shown a photograph of the mine's Korean leader. The senior manager's influence stretches far. The officer is tasked with a covert mission to extract the leader from the island, recognizing his crucial role in uniting the captive Koreans. The officer agrees, embarking on a perilous journey disguised as a worker. Back on the island, the senior manager throws a lavish party, a grotesque display of power and privilege, while the Korean laborers toil in the darkness. Lee and his band are forced to provide entertainment, their music a hollow echo in the face of their suffering. In the depths of mine number 2, disaster strikes. A runaway trolley laden with coal hurtles downwards, crushing and killing many. A fire erupts, adding to the chaos and devastation. The senior manager, with callous disregard for human life, orders the mine to be sealed and burned, deeming it unproductive and its Korean workers expendable. Panic grips the trapped miners. But then, news reaches the senior manager that the Korean leader is among those entombed. Fear of a widespread strike forces his hand. He orders the Japanese workers to attempt a rescue, but their efforts prove futile. Inside the suffocating darkness, the trapped Koreans take matters into their own hands. A desperate act of defiance. A dynamite blast rips through the rock, creating a precarious escape route. The injured leader emerges, greeted by a wave of relief and renewed hope. Among the crowd is the disguised army officer. The officer reveals his true identity to the leader, explaining his mission to bring him back to Korea. He needs a telegraph to contact the army and arrange for a ship. The leader agrees to procure one. The officer then approaches Lee, his request direct. The keys to the officer's room, where the telegraph is located. Lee, wary and suspicious, demands an explanation. The officer reveals his mission, the extraction of the Korean leader, and his identity as an army officer. Lee agrees to provide the key, but with a condition: his own escape and the safety of his daughter. The officer readily accepts. Under the cover of secrecy, Lee uses a clever ruse, heating the officer's cabin key and taking an impression on a film reel. He entrusts this to his friend, who crafts a duplicate. The key is then given to the army officer. In the dead of night, the officer gains access to the cabin and sends a coded message, requesting a ship. He also discovers the Korean account records, revealing a damning truth. The ominous drone of enemy planes overhead forces everyone to take cover, plunging the island into darkness. Seizing this opportunity, the army officer leads the Korean leader to a secluded spot. He confronts him with the account records, exposing a web of corruption. The records show that the workers' meager earnings are being systematically siphoned off, a significant portion ending up in the leader's own account, bearing his signature. The leader vehemently denies the accusations, claiming the senior manager is framing him. Just then, Lee arrives with his daughter, drawn by the unfolding drama. But the island erupts in explosions, the senior manager caught in the fiery blast. As the Japanese retreat to a bunker, abandoning the Koreans to their fate, the leader attempts to flee. But his trusted confidant, his special man, intercepts him. "Did you see the account record?" the leader asks. The man's affirmative reply seals his fate. A gunshot rings out, and he falls dead. Lee and his daughter witness the cold-blooded execution in horrified silence. The junior manager receives a chilling phone call. Hitler is dead, and collaborators are being hunted. Hiroshima has been obliterated by an American bomb. News of the senior manager's injuries reaches the junior. The voice on the other end offers a brutal solution: kill the senior and seize his position. The junior manager, seizing the opportunity, complies. The following day, a wave of anti-Korean sentiment sweeps through the Japanese workers. A rumor spreads: a Korean man assaulted and killed a Japanese girl. The truth, however, is far more sinister. The supervisor, a predator, committed the crime and pinned the blame on Choi, the Korean gangster. The junior manager, now in a position of power, fuels the flames of hatred, promising swift punishment for the Koreans. Choi is apprehended by the enraged Japanese workers. The junior manager then approaches the Korean leader with a twisted offer of escape. In exchange for half of the stolen wages and a fabricated testimony to the Americans about their good treatment, the leader will be allowed to leave. The remaining Koreans, he reveals, will be buried alive in the mine. The leader, his conscience seemingly eroded by greed and self-preservation, agrees. But the army officer and Lee's daughter overhear the treacherous pact. The leader addresses the Korean workers, weaving a web of lies. He claims to have spoken with the senior manager, who has promised better food and working conditions. A celebration in the mine is announced, a thinly veiled trap. But the army officer steps forward, his voice ringing with truth. He exposes the leader's deceit, revealing his complicity in the exploitation. Lee then presents the damning account records as irrefutable proof. Lee's daughter adds her own devastating testimony, revealing the leader's cold-blooded murder of his loyal comrade. The workers, their eyes open to the betrayal, turn against their supposed leader. The army officer executes him, ending his reign of corruption. Choi is freed from his captors. The army officer rallies the Koreans, announcing their escape via the coal ship. A collective surge of hope ignites. Some begin to fashion makeshift weapons, preparing for a potential fight. The army officer and a small group seize control of the coal ship. To reach it, they must cross a wooden bridge used for loading coal. They encounter guards, but Lee creates a diversion, allowing the officer and his men to eliminate the threat. The Koreans begin to cross the bridge onto the ship. The remaining Koreans on the island exact their own form of retribution, trapping the Japanese in their homes and setting them ablaze. The junior manager is spotted, and the army officer swiftly deals with two pursuing soldiers. The sound of gunfire alerts the newly installed senior manager, who sends his remaining forces in pursuit. Choi, accompanied by the Korean girl and others, engages the Japanese soldiers in a fierce battle. The rope bridge, their lifeline to freedom, is severed, sending many plunging to their deaths. Those who remain on the island desperately try to climb the broken bridge. A brutal fight erupts between the trapped Koreans and the pursuing Japanese. Lee, single-handedly, attempts to lift the broken bridge, but his strength fails him. His daughter rushes to his aid, and seeing their struggle, the other Koreans join in a desperate effort. Amidst the chaos, the Korean girl is shot by the vengeful supervisor. Choi, consumed by rage, confronts his tormentor, his fury culminating in a brutal execution. But as he returns to the dying girl, he too is struck down. They perish together, their brief moment of freedom extinguished. Lee and his daughter make their way towards the ship, but the junior manager intercepts them, shooting Lee and taking his daughter hostage. The army officer throws a stone, momentarily distracting the junior. As the junior fires another shot at Lee, his daughter retaliates, shattering a bottle bomb at his feet. The junior manager erupts in flames. The army officer ends his suffering with a swift cut of his throat, declaring the war over, the senior junior manager and supervisor all dead. The remaining Koreans board the ship. Lee, gravely wounded, makes a final plea to the army officer: protect his daughter. With his last breath, he succumbs to his injuries, leaving his daughter heartbroken and alone. As they sail away, a blinding flash illuminates the horizon, followed by a deafening roar. Nagasaki, another city consumed by the atomic inferno. The survivors stare in stunned silence at the cataclysmic power of destruction. The film lingers on Lee's orphaned daughter, her future uncertain in a world forever changed.